Welcome to Apaga University. I'm Inga.
And I'm Julie. We are two
momtrepreneurs
who have built an in-home care business from the ground up, guided every step of the way by God's care and fueled by agape love.
16 years later and over 100 podcast episodes already under our belts, we invite you to continue on this journey with us as we share stories that resonate, insights that inspire, and practical guidance that empowers you to face any obstacle along this path.
Whether you're a professional caregiver, a family member, or are simply curious about what your steps will be when you need them, you have come to the right place.
Oh, hey, and while you're here, make sure you hit that subscribe button.
And after that, make sure you send this to a friend.
Yes, do it. All right, we'll quit fooling around and get to it.
Let's go. Class is in session.
Hello, Sunshines, and hello, Julie.
Well, hello, Inga.
How is ya?
Good.
How's your cold?
Muchy better.
Muchy better?
Yeah. I actually thought about that this morning when I woke up. I thought, oh my goodness, I woke up and I don't feel like I need to go back to bed right now.
Isn't that crazy? It's such a great feeling when you're like, oh, this is wonderful.
I just might survive after all.
I know. Every day gets a little bit better because I'm 2-3 days behind you.
Yes, not that you got it from me.
No, what's been weird about it is, so it's all the leftover Montana Royal barn crud, right? Because that seems to happen after every big livestock show.
Yeah.
But you got it, and then I didn't get it from you because I avoided you for several days.
Oh, yeah.
And then
I
got it, and then Kevin's like a couple days behind me.
Yeah.
But you know what he does? He used that Zicam stuff. Have you heard of it?
Mm-hmm.
Like the swab up the nose.
Ew.
It's rough, man. And I try, but it's rough.
So does it work for him?
He seems to think it works wonders.
Well.
Yeah, it's supposed to
even
just
if it's mental, that's positive.
Whatever. You know, I seem to think that Luden's cough drops work.
Oh, there you go.
And they don't, but they're just nice.
I think I have to have NyQuil.
Yes.
Once again, does it have help or not?
It does knock you out, or seems for most of us.
Yeah.
So at least you sleep, hopefully.
Yeah.
The worst thing for me is when I get like congested and like a stuffy nose and can't breathe very well. Oh, that's the worst.
Yeah, Mike was maybe complaining a little bit of that I was snoring a little bit more this week than normal.
Yeah, it happens.
I don't believe it.
Probably not.
Yeah.
I mean, can't prove it.
Any disgusting noises coming out of this?
Yeah, not
What?
possible. Not possible.
I don't think so.
As Alyssa's eyes roll out of her head.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay, well, there you go. That's the update on our colds.
Yeah.
So
we're okay. We're going to survive.
Zicam works for some people. Luden's cough drops work for some people. NyQuil works for most of us. Anyway, but you will get carded. Do you still get carded to buy NyQuil?
Off. Oh my gosh.
I'm always like, I'm old enough to know better.
Yeah.
Like it's not for any nefarious purposes. I just have a cold.
I won't even go to Target anymore because of that.
Well, oh my gosh. Speaking of the carding situation, so we have friends that show sheep, and the dad and his daughter had gone to Walmart, and he picked up some beer or something, and they weren't going to sell it to him because they thought she was his girlfriend. He's like, she's my daughter, and she's 14. Like, what?
Oh,
it was mind-blowing.
My word.
They're pretty strict about it at Walmart.
Holy shnikes.
Yeah, they must have gotten burned a time or two, but it was really unsettling in a lot of ways.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, anywho. Okay, our verse. This is 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 4.
Yes.
It says, he comforts us every time we have trouble, so that when others have trouble, we can comfort them with the same comfort that God gives us.
Boom.
So do it, man.
Do it. Yes.
Share the comfort.
Yeah.
Even if it means sharing your pillow.
Oh, no,
your blankie.
Not your pillow.
Not your toothbrush, though. Spare a square if someone needs to blow their nose. Or other things.
Yes. Reason for that is because we are kind of going off of last week's podcast when we were talking about Social Security. Now, this one, we're going to get into a little bit deeper into the different programs of Social Security. And once again, it's about we're sharing with others, comforting others when we have the ability to do so. Exactly.
And yeah.
So that's that.
Okay. Well, my good news story is not a good news story. But it's how you can become a good news story.
Oh my.
So it's very deep. So basically I stumbled upon this website that is called wishofalifetime.org.
Okay.
This is an AARP website. Apparently when you hang out with older people, I'm just kidding. I'm getting up there in age too. So anyway, somehow
that was a dig at me, by the way, people.
No, it was Kevin, not you.
Oh,
Kevin.
my ass.
Okay. Well, anyway, I have reached the point in my life where AARP is sharing information with me. So I thought that I would pass it on. And anyway, this is a website, or this is a program, I guess, through AARP. Again, wishofalifetime.org. And it gives the opportunity for older Americans to have crazy wishes fulfilled. It says, with each wish granted, older adults across the country are reconnected with the communities, passions, and people they love, helping them to live more vibrant and purposeful lives. After their wish experience, over 90% of the recipients reported increases in their quality of life and their involvement in the world. So basically, what you do is you go onto this website, and there is a submit a wish. There's just a tab or whatever, you click on it. And the different categories that I was able to ascertain from this, commemorating service, fulfilling lifelong dreams, reconnecting loved ones, and renewing and celebrating passions.
Oh my gosh.
So there's all kinds of different stories on there. I actually just read one about an individual that had coached for the Paralympics for years and was able to go to the Olympic Museum and get a tour, reconnect with a lifelong friend, like 30 years they'd been separated or something, and go through this. And it's just great. There's just cool things that people are able to do. So go check it out, and maybe you will be a good news story on our Apaga University podcast.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
And it is wishofalifetime.org.
Oh.
Yep. From AARP.
Wow.
Good job, AARP.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my happy story today is actually about a university student who plays the piano, and she actually lives at an assisted living. What? With older people. Her agreement with living there is that she is their entertainment and that she plays the piano for them all the time.
What?
And
cool.
It's become a really cool intergenerational thing. But what's funny about it is they are also become her worst and best critics. Because if she tries to play some newer stuff, if they don't like it, they tell her about it. But some of the people are like, we just never know what's going to come out of those fingers. But it's the cutest thing. And what an incredible thing.
Yeah,
and
that's a cool program.
It benefits both of them, her. And so, yeah, she's in exchange for her stay at the home, she is encouraged to immerse herself in the community as much as possible, in addition to the routine performances where she brings in also other musicians. And so her free time is filled with games of chair volleyball or doing a puzzle and talking about education with her friend Pat, who's a farmer teacher. So anyway, that's a really cool thing. What they're calling it, an intergenerational connection.
That's awesome. It does make me think of when your niece Sonia was here.
Yeah.
And she went to one of the local assisted livings and played the piano.
Got a really cool program at their school where they have to do like 100 hours of community integration for each year.
Wow.
And
can you imagine how awesome that would be if every school had a program? I mean, even if it was just 10 hours.
Just making them go and do that. And so she spent a lot of time going to different homes and being entertainment.
Yes. Well, she's extremely gifted, so
it's very fun.
That's awesome.
Very fun.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to hear about that. That is a cool thing. Okay. So building on last week's episode, talking about Social Security, today we are actually going to talk about 3 programs that come under the Social Security Administration. We are going to start with Social Security and then Supplemental Security Income, which is SSI. So that is something that we have a lot of people that work with us that are on this SSI,
right? And
it limits them to what they can do in terms of earning other wages, right?
Right.
And then later on in the discussion, we're going to talk about Social Security Disability Insurance, which is SSDI. So very important to keep track and understand that these are 3 completely different things, and they impact you differently. And qualifying.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine working for Social Security?
No.
I tell you, there are times I think that my schedule is a problem but it's nothing like Social Security, SSI, SSDI.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yes. And I think that they're all very valid things, right? Depending on where someone is in their life. But it is a lot to kind of keep track of. So basically, there's a lot of confusion oftentimes about Social Security and supplemental security income, or SSI, because you apply for both of those programs through or with the Social Security Administration, but the programs are different.
Right.
So Social Security benefit programs are entitlement programs. This means that workers, employers, and the self-employed pay for the benefits with their Social Security taxes. The taxes that are collected are put into special trusts, and you qualify for these benefits based on your work history or at times the history of your spouse or parent. The amount of the benefit is based on those earnings.
Right.
SSI is a needs-based program for people with limited income and resources. Resources are considered assets or things that you own. The program is paid for by general tax revenues and not from Social Security trust funds. The benefit amount is based on federal and state laws, which take into account where you live, who lives with you, and what income you receive. So basically, we're going to talk through kind of some charts we'll have on the show notes, but to help you try to understand the difference between Social Security and SSI. So again, Social Security, those benefits are based on your earnings. They are financed by your employer and you yourself as what you contributed with wages. There is not an income limit on Social Security. There is not a resource limit on Social Security. You must have enough work credits to be able to qualify. The Medicare is a part of Social Security. The benefit types for Social Security, basically there's a retirement benefit, which we've talked about in a previous episode, that starts at age 62 for limited benefit, and then all the way up to that full retirement age of 67. There are survivor benefits and there are disability benefits through Social Security, that including blindness. Social Security provides benefits to eligible family members, and the benefit amount is based on your average lifetime earnings. So that's important to know. And then other income does not affect your benefits other than if you start to draw before your full retirement age. So essentially they do, or they can affect you, but also they don't, depending, right? It's always this unless it's that. Where you live or who you live with also does not affect your benefits. So keep that in mind. So talk to me about SSI.
Then SSI, the benefits are based on need. They're financed by a general revenue. There's a limited income, limited resources. No work credits are required. There's Medicaid works,
right, versus
Medicare. Benefit types, aged is 65 and older, or a disability of any age. It includes children. And blindness is any age that includes children. There's no family benefits. The benefit amount is based on federal and state laws. Other income may affect benefits, and because you have to report any income that you receive. And then where you live or who lives with you may affect benefits. So you have to report all changes.
So with SSI, just like we were talking about with some of our people that, you know, are working here, they might be drawing some SSI benefit. And so it then limits the amount of work that they can do. Otherwise they go over that cap or whatever they're allowed to make. And then, you know, benefits start to be reduced. So, and then again, like you said, you have to report everything, because who you're living with and, those where you're living, the expenses that go along with all of those things are taken into consideration. And again, understanding that the benefits are going to be based on federal and state laws. So basically what you get for SSI in Montana might be different than what you would get from SSI in Washington or...
And actually, now that you bring that up, I think about people that are on like our Medicaid program that come from another state.
Yes.
And typically they're madder than heck.
Yes.
When they come to Montana, because in Washington, they got this and they got this and they got this.
Yes.
And coming to a different state, they might not get all of the things that they had. So they have to adjust.
It is a lot to consider when you are making a move like that state to state, because the programs are managed so differently and the benefits are very, very, very different from state to state.
Right. They gave some really good examples. So I'll read the question and then you read the answer.
Okay.
And the first two will be about Social Security.
Okay.
And I think it kind of helps you understand this.
Yep.
And then we'll have a couple of those for SSI.
Sure.
So the question is Mary a Native American elder, is 67 years old and receives retirement benefits? She retired from her job after working 30 years. She receives $600 a month. Her daughter and grandson moved into their home. Does Mary have to report this to Social Security?
So the answer is no. Mary does not have to report a change in her living arrangements. Social Security benefits are not affected if someone moves into or out of your home, or if you move into or out of someone else's home. Okay. So Social Security is not impacted by where you're living or who's living with you.
Okay. The next question is, Mary just received her quarterly per capita distribution from her tribe's revenue sharing trust fund. Does she need to report this to Social Security?
Again, the answer is no. Mary does not need to report her per capita distribution. Mary only needs to report her wages if she returns to work. Sometimes earnings from work will affect Social Security benefits, but you need to report, and then a representative will tell you if those earnings are going to affect your check. But in terms of that per capita distribution, that would not be something that Mary would have to report to Social Security.
Gotcha. Now on the flip side, SSI. So the question is, John and Lily, Native American elders, are both 68 years old. They have been receiving SSI benefits for 2 years. Last week, John and Lily moved in with their son. They both have direct deposit. Do they have to report to Social Security that they now live with their son?
The answer to that is yes. If you receive SSI payments, you must report changes in your living arrangements right away. The report must be made to Social Security, directly to Social Security.
So interesting, though, they brought up direct deposit because you're not having to change an address to get a check.
Right. That's a true story, because basically it's just going directly into your bank account. So unless you update them on your address, they're not going to know.
Yeah.
Now, that's a good point. And honestly, I wonder how many people, I mean, it's a lot to know about these programs and how many people just inadvertently don't even think about it.
Oh, I'm sure.
I know that after we came out of the public health emergency with COVID and a lot of things in the state had been sort of changed in the way that rules were applied and people were able to access benefits.
Right.
It's really become, for lack of a more eloquent way to say it, an ass kicker for a lot of people because they are losing a lot of benefits and not really even knowing or understanding why things are changing from, maybe they were on SSI, but now they're on Social Security, or they had a standard Medicaid benefit, but now they're qualified Medicare beneficiary, and people don't understand this stuff. No. And so how many people just inadvertently, you're in the middle of a big move and you don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
But I do think that they're pretty serious about maintaining the information and having it be accurate, because I do think that sadly there are cases where I think there are two situations. There's probably cases where fraud happens, and there's probably cases where it's just a completely innocent, somebody forgot to do something.
Yeah.
But I think that in either situation, once it is discovered that something has happened, they're probably going to try to come back and recover any money that was paid in error.
That could cause a big
it is
problem.
important to, I don't think ignorance is bliss in this situation. And I think it is important to know. It's going
to catch up with you.
Yeah, it will catch up with you. And you need to know what the program standards are and what the requirements are, and be proactive in protecting yourself.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The next question is, John just received his quarterly per capita distribution from his tribe's revenue sharing trust fund. Does he need to report this to the Social Security? And for SSI, it's absolutely yes. He is required to report all income he receives from any source. And once again, then your representative from Social Security will tell you how that's going to affect your SSI.
Right.
When in doubt, report the income to Social Security.
And also know that Social Security representatives are your best source of information. So
don't go at them like a wild woman killing snakes.
Yes. You might also get, the kinder you can be, probably the better of the outcome you're going to have. Although sometimes one just has to lose their mind, as evidenced by my behavior yesterday.
But it wasn't about Social Security.
No, it was not about Social Security. It was about other computer software things. And
that make you lose your mind in the first place.
Yes. And yes.
Oh my gosh.
But anyway, okay. So let's talk about the differences between Social Security, SSI, and now we're adding into it SSDI.
Right.
Which is Social Security Disability Insurance.
Yeah.
So again, similar initials, overlapping missions. The programs can easily be confused, but they do differ in fundamental ways. So some of the key distinctions: who qualifies for Social Security Disability Insurance? This is available to people with physical and mental impairments severe enough to prevent them from engaging in their normal occupations or any other substantial work. The disability must be expected to last for at least 12 months or to end in death.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm. And then SSI, which we just talked about, this is a safety net program that pays benefits to people who are disabled. This is usually based on some type of definition that is used for SSDI, blind, or 65 and older, and they must have a very limited income and assets, right? So SSI, there are a couple different things that can qualify you for that, whether that is, basically a blindness, a disability, or your age being 65 and older with limited income and assets. But for the Social Security Disability Insurance, it has to be some type of a physical or mental impairment that is severe enough to prevent you from engaging in normal occupations.
Gotcha.
Yep. So there's what they call the Social Security Blue Book, and it runs down the physical and mental health disorders that automatically qualify you as meeting medical requirements for receiving SSDI or SSI. And that it's a stringent list, right?
Yeah.
And basically there's a lot of criteria for each condition. I think we can talk about those, but I also don't want this to be a scenario where people listening are like, oh, gosh, I definitely qualify for SSDI. That. So, because that's not the intent of it at all. And a lot of people that do have these conditions or diseases or diagnosis, they are still able to work and still do work, right?
Yes.
So you're always encouraged to do that as long as you can.
Right.
But this program the intent of it is to be there in the case that, you're affected by one of these, and it makes it so that you just physically are not able to, physically or mentally.
Right.
So talk to me about some of the categories.
Oh my gosh.
Disorders.
It's the musculoskeletal system, such as amputation, spinal disorders, joint pain, chronic, special senses and speech, such as impaired hearing, sight, or speech, respiratory illnesses, COPD, cystic fibrosis, cardiovascular illnesses, digestive system, chronic kidney disease, blood disorders like sickle cell, skin disorders such as a burn, endocrine disorders such as diabetes, congenital disorders such as Down syndrome, neurological disorders, cognitive and mental conditions such as bipolar, dementia, depression. There's cancer, immune system diseases. So many different categories.
Right. And there are a lot of things that might affect a person's ability to be able to hold down an occupation and work normally. But also, as you're reading through these, I'm thinking of people that I know that are affected by many, many of these things that are able to work just fine.
Yeah.
So they have a disease process or whatever that is managed well, and they're able to go to work. And again, the intent is to be there, in the case that you can't. Not to say that just because if you have one of these things, now you need to go get on SSDI.
Well, and I think it is probably, hopefully, the last resort.
Yes. And I don't think that it's necessarily easy.
Oh,
because I know that we have worked with people in the past that have applied for SSDI, and it's kind of a knockdown, drag out situation.
It is. And actually, when I worked for a neurosurgeon when I was first out of high school, and it was 99%, if not 99.9% of all people that applied for this, the very first answer was, nope, you do not. And you had to literally go through several rejections, but it's almost like a screening process.
Yes.
And so the people that aren't going to fight about it are just like, oh, shoot, I can't get it.
Right.
I got to figure out what I'm going to do next.
Right.
Other people are like, heck no, I'm really ill. I need help. So they then get some kind of an attorney or something, that's going to make them get documentation from, proving.
basically it says that the list of impairments is not exhaustive. You can still qualify for SSDI or SSI if your disorder is not specified in this blue book, or if it is, but you don't exactly match the cited medical requirements. You will, however, have to make a case to Social Security that your illness or symptoms are as severe as those in the book in terms of limiting your work and daily functioning. So it's not like you just go to the doctor and get a diagnosis and all of a sudden you're going to be able to get on SSDI. Yeah. I mean, it is a process.
Big
and
process.
They do look at it, and I think it's, I don't know, sometimes it seems like they just deny, hoping that people will go away. But then, the flip side of it as a taxpayer is like, I do appreciate that there is due diligence that goes into it in making sure that someone truly is eligible and not just looking for kind of a handout from the system.
Right. Yes. Now this is where I was talking about going down a rabbit's trail, right? Because the Blue Book is not to be confused with Social Security's Compassionate Allowance Program. Oh. So there's even more, although both list conditions that are by definition meet Social Security disability standard. The Compassionate Allowance Book program designs conditions that can get you an expedited ruling on an SSDI or SSI claim. So the Blue Book sets out the criteria for consideration of a condition that you might have, not for speeding up the process.
Oh, okay. So the compassionate compassionate allowances.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, if you start with the Blue Book, right, see if anything matches up there. And then if you're looking for an expedited ruling, then you see if you fall into that compassionate allowances.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was just like, this just doesn't stop, because if this book doesn't work, then work for this book. And then, it just doesn't, it just keeps rolling.
This is interesting. So how to qualify for SSDI? This is an earned benefit. So as with Social Security retirement benefits, you qualify by working and paying Social Security taxes. How long you must have worked to be eligible varies based on your age when you become disabled. So interesting that it's not just a program that, you can just willy-nilly go get on if you have not made a contribution.
Right.
Is how I'm
so in SSDI again is actually the one where we're talking about, what is SSDI?
It's the disability, it is the Social Security disability insurance. So it's basically someone that's been part of the workforce and then they have some sort of catastrophic situation that takes them out of the workforce. Whereas, again, the SSI is not tied to a recipient's work history. So SSI is something that you can receive even if you've never worked or paid Social Security taxes, but your income and other financial resources, such as bank accounts and property, they can't exceed certain, strict financial caps. So, yeah, it's really hard to keep track of everything.
Yeah.
SSI is that, what is it called? A supplemental security income. And that one is it's not tied to you having worked and contributed into Social Security.
Okay, so if somebody's born with Down syndrome, they would be eligible for SSI.
I would think so,
because it's not tied to their work, because they're not going to get a job.
Right, they have this disability that precludes them from being able to get function in a normal occupation, and so but they have the need, right? So that's my interpretation. Again, it's always going to be talk to somebody who knows more than we do.
For sure. Yeah. So, so in 2024, the maximum federal SSI payment is $943 a month for an individual and $1,415 a month for a couple receiving SSI jointly. Income up to those levels may result in your benefit being reduced. Income above them can render you ineligible for the program. So the resource limit is $2,000 for an individual and $3,000 for a couple.
Right. So basically, you're in pretty bad shape if you're there, and you're not going to get rich on SSI. No. I mean, if you think about, you can barely buy groceries for $943 a month. Oh my
gosh. So not all income and assets count against the caps. For example, Social Security exempts the value of your home and about half of earnings from work, among other things.
So again, there's just so many numbers to be crunched in the situation that I really do feel like, just making that phone call or reaching out to somebody that works for Social Security or financial advisor. And then just keep in mind that if you are on any of these programs and you are still earning money, there's going to be limitations on what you can do other than true Social Security. If you're on SSI or SSDI, those are the ones that are going to have some limitations for you on how much you can work before it starts to affect your benefit.
So if you live with a spouse, your income may affect your payment. Children on SSI who live with their parents may have their payments lowered based on their income or their parents' income. So living with others may affect your payment. If you live with somebody else's home and don't pay your fair share of food and shelter cost, your SSI payment can be lowered up to $334.33.
Right.
These numbers are breaking my head.
Yeah. It's a lot.
Wow.
It's a lot. And obviously somebody somewhere put together the matrix on what all these numbers mean and what the value of different things are. And
wow.
But yeah, it's kind of a full-time job if you're going to be on one of these programs, making sure you get everything reported correctly.
Can you imagine the application and how daunting it is to look at that? And you better have every receipt and everything that shows how much your rent is, how much your medical bills are, your food.
I know. Like I'm like thinking in my head about the Medicaid program that we provide and how daunting it is on collecting data and what we have to do. And it's kind of a similar situation.
Exactly. How much does if you have a car, how much does what's its value? Probably you don't own a house because that is considered an asset.
I think it said something about housing might not impact, but I don't think you can have more than $200. Or $2,000 if you're an individual or $3,000 if you're a couple. So even it's like, think about when we have individuals that have been receiving home care and then they go into like skilled nursing or whatever, and they have to spend down all of their money.
Right.
It's like they cannot have more than X amount of dollars sitting there. Otherwise, I think they become ineligible. So it has to get spent on whether it's the facility or whatever. It's a lot to keep track of. I don't want to ever have to do it.
No kidding. No kidding. So,
so basically talking a little bit about the financing and the administration of these programs. So SSDI actually dates back to 1956 when Social Security's rules were amended to permit benefit payments to disabled workers. Both workers and their employers primarily bear the cost of the program through payroll taxes. Benefits are paid out of the Social Security's Disability Insurance Trust Fund. So my assumption is basically the Social Security that the employee pays and what we pay as an employer goes into those trust fund. It goes wherever it goes and then gets divvied up into, some of it goes into this trust fund, some of it goes into this. And then of that, there's this Disability Insurance Trust Fund.
Right.
Payment amounts are based on your earnings history. So in November of 2023, the average monthly SSDI benefit was about $1,489. So again, nobody's getting rich on this.
No.
SSI is managed by the Social Security Administration, but Social Security taxes do not pay for it. Remember, because the SSI is the one that is not tied to your work history. So SSI is paid out of general revenues that the Treasury Department collects to run the U.S. government. Social Security was put in charge of SSI when the program was established in 1972 to replace a patchwork of state programs that provided federally financed benefits for older, blind, and disabled people in financial need. So most states offer supplemental benefits to SSI recipients on top of the federal payment. How they're similar. So Social Security Administration generally uses the same medical criteria and the same process to determine if a disability entitles an adult to SSDI or SSI. Collecting both benefits is permitted. Interesting. I did not know that. The condition must be expected to last at least a year or result in death and must prevent you from doing most work. Social Security requires considerable medical evidence to back up a disability claim for either benefit. Although you can apply online for SSDI and in some cases for SSI, the process will include an in-person or phone interview with a Social Security representative. So getting a decision generally takes 3 to 5 months, according to Social Security officials, but the time can vary depending on how long Social Security needs to get medical records and other relevant evidence. Military veterans and people with particularly severe medical issues may qualify for expedited processing. Keep in mind, a majority of applications for disability benefit are initially denied, which I think is what you said.
Yeah.
If your application is rejected, you have the right to appeal, but getting a hearing can take a year or more. the Social Security Administration has a considerable backlog of cases. So
everything has a backlog at this point.
I know. And it's rough because sadly, I'm sure there are some individuals that apply that aren't appropriate and just hoping to get something for nothing.
Yeah.
And that kind of ends up at times screwing it up for the ones that really, really need it.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
That's really not great. But especially since you brought up the COVID thing, there's, as you said, there's a lot of people that have been bounced off of programs.
Yes.
And there was a whole article, and I didn't go there because that was another one of those rabbit holes where it says, well, if you get denied, then you can do this. But it tells you basically first you have to do this, and then you, at the end, it's like you literally have to go through like the Supreme Court.
Wow.
If you keep getting denied and you're just like, no, dang it, I want this.
Right. Right. And it's sad because you want the program to be there for the people that it's really intended for.
Yeah.
And sadly, I think what ends up happening is it's probably a large majority of the time where the people that truly should be on it get denied and denied and denied and don't know or have the ability to keep fighting through it.
Well,
and
then you have to get an attorney. And what's interesting is there's supposed to be a cap on what attorneys can actually charge you for this kind of a situation. But in some of the notes that I was reading, there was people like, oh, I was only supposed to pay this. I paid X, for somebody to represent me.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these people don't have the money to get an attorney
to begin with,
regardless.
Right. And then if they're taken advantage of. Well.
So lots and lots of rabbit holes. On the show notes, there was a lot of attachments that I put. I did put the blue book and a few other things that I didn't do it. I gave it to Alyssa to do. But there's a lot of information out there, and you just have to get that representative that knows the system.
Yeah. Because
otherwise it's going to not be worth it.
Oh, it's rough.
Yeah.
It's rough. But very cool topic. I'm glad that we did this.
Yeah.
It's a lot to know.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're not more confused than we were coming into it.
Well, probably, but that's just every topic.
True.
But anyway, I needed to kind of understand where some of our people are coming from and why they are so stressed out and why they are having to jump through so many hoops.
Yeah.
And it very easily can become overwhelming. It's not easy.
Nope.
So
ain't easy being cheesy.
Not at all. Not at all.
What are you leaving us with?
Eating humble pie.
Oh boy.
Yes. The meaning is to be submissive or apologetic. But the real meaning is as far back as the 17th century, the lord of an estate would give the people, the servants, the less tasty parts of the animal. And typically they were made into a pie. This was then associated with a lower social status because you got the humble pie. And it was called umbles, the less truly humble without the H, umbles, the less tasty parts of the animal. So that was how you were eating humble pie. Yeah.
I always thought it was like I thought it was like what I had to do yesterday when I lost my mind on one of our computer software people and then realized that, okay, to be fair, the previous 99,000 times were not my error, but yesterday's was my error. So I had to say, I am so sorry. It was my error. Thank you for helping me.
I would have thought that was you eating humble pie.
That's what I think, because I had to like humble myself and be like, oopsie poopsie.
To be submissive or apologetic is the meaning.
Yep.
But the real meaning is that you didn't eat any actual pie.
I did not eat any actual pie, but I was apologetic. And they deserved my apology because
Oh, look at you being so humble.
Yes, I don't know. I just want them to help me on the other 99,000.
Yeah, you're going through speaking of numbers and icky stuff. This people is why Inga is the way she is.
It is too. It's a
because
lot.
she does the icky part of the business, which is the financials and all of that numbery, mathy stuff.
Yeah. And it's just great. It really is great. I'm trying not to complain too much because I do love my part of the job. more so than what you do with the randomness of the schedule and the floating puzzle that never actually gets completed.
Living, breathing.
Yeah, I can't. I can't even look at the schedule because I'm like, it's so chaotic to me.
Well,
but
and good because I don't want you to.
Don't look. Do not look.
Don't look, Ethel. But it was too late.
Yeah.
She
no,
looked.
I have my own set of troubles that I don't need to involve myself in yours. All right, guys. Peace out, Girl Scouts.
Have a good day.
The caregiven name is a registered trademark of the Veritrust Health Incorporated Company. IPAGA is not connected to, affiliated with, or endorsed by Veritrust or any of its affiliates.